G'day everyone, Tim from Bozzy Garage, and today's an exciting day because it's always an exciting day when you get some new car parts. This is called the Eonon X3. It's a double DIN car stereo head unit, and the great thing about this one is it is crazy good value. It's a double DIN car stereo unit. It's got wireless Apple CarPlay, it's got wireless Android Auto, you've got an actual volume knob, support for reversing cameras, you'd expect a front camera even, and of course it can run things like external amplifiers and the rest of it. But here's the number one thing about it, you're gonna love this. It's like under 200 Aussie dollars delivered from China. I got it in like 4 days, and let's see what it looks like when we unbox it. I really like the matte bezels around the screen, but my most favorite feature is right up here. Hopefully you can see it there. That is an actual volume knob. What a brilliant thing to have. I'm going to put this in a very old car with no steering wheel control, so when I'm driving I just want to reach down, grab that knob, give it a little twist. We've got a power button, a little reset button. This is fantastic. A USB-C port for fast charging of your phone or other appliances as well. A USB-A traditional port, and that one here is an auxiliary input. We have here on the top of the unit some information about the wiring of it. The depth of the unit, pretty shallow. I would say that's about 3 inches, 8-9 centimeters, something like that. Plenty of mounting holes as well, so you can get a good fitment to pretty much any vehicle. At least one of those holes is going to fit. Turning the unit around to the back, that's where you plug in the wiring harness. There's a fuse there. We've got a bunch of different inputs and outputs, so you know, things like a reversing camera. You can also hook up an external amplifier. Video in there is as well. There's also audio out if you wanted to run back seat screens or something like that too. Your radio plug goes into there, and we have a USB port. Microphone input there too. So we have an instruction book. This here is the main wiring harness. That looks to be a 1 amp fuse, very good. And now this is great. This is what is called an ISO male connector. And if your car already has an ISO plug behind the stereo, fantastic. You just take out your old stereo, plug it in, plug this in, and you're pretty much done. Typically though, especially if you've got an older car, I'll say 10, 15 or more years older, your car might have a double DIN unit with a special manufacturer plug, whether it be Mitsubishi, Honda, Toyota, Subaru, whatever. What you should do, if you can, is just Google, again, 1998 Nissan S15 or whatever. See what the plug is at the back, and then you can buy an adapter that goes from your Nissan harness to an ISO female, which then this plugs into. There are a few loose wires here which you may or may not need to wire up separately. So that's a ground. This is usually quite important. Some people just think, I don't need to ground it because it works anyway. This will help to remove a lot of excess noise from your stereo. It's called a ground loop, where the unit is not grounded to the same part of the car. SWC2 and SWC1, they refer to steering wheel controls, and a reverse trigger. This will be important when we get around to wiring up a reverse camera. Next thing out of the box, external microphone, a bunch of installation screws, which is great. You actually even get a reverse camera thrown in. Wow, that's amazing. You know why it's amazing? Because it wasn't actually advertised as, I don't think it was actually advertised as coming with a reverse camera. So there you go, everything that you need. I actually ordered a reversing camera to go with this car stereo because I thought it didn't come with one. An Eonon one as well from the website. I'll put a link to it and to that unit in the description below somewhere. But because we've already got one, I may not actually need this. When it comes to reversing cameras, I'll actually do that in a separate video, how to run the wiring through the car. This is a comprehensive kit. Value is even better than I thought because you get a reverse camera thrown in with the Eonon X3 straight out of the box. That is fantastic. For well under 200 Australian dollars delivered in a few days, wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto. I'm really excited to get this in my car. I'm putting it in my 20-something-year-old Nissan S15, which has got an Alpine unit, which was state-of-the-art for its day. It probably cost like $1,000. This will bring my car right up into the 21st century. So what we're going to do now is remove the existing doubled-in stereo that I have in my car, which is a 2000 model Nissan S15. Most of the panels just unclip pretty easily. But for your exact car, well, maybe you just Google exactly how to remove the panels. So the existing Alpine car stereo, it's actually not that bad, but it is quite old. It's got to be at least 8 years old. It does have Bluetooth. It does have a reversing camera, but it doesn't have Android Auto, doesn't have Apple CarPlay. The camera is also quite a low resolution old unit, so I'm going to be changing that out later for another Eonon product, the reversing camera A0125. The great thing about upgrading car stereos in older cars like this one is that they're normally held together pretty easily. The most outer panels like that normally just pull off. Remove that there. Just disconnect everything one by one. So if you're installing the Eonon X3 into a car with the original factory car stereo, let's say it's a, I don't know, a Honda from 10-15 years ago, once you've removed the car stereo, it would normally have a factory plug that plugs in the back of the original car stereo. Now, of course, because things are never easy, this is a 25-year-old car with a billion different owners and a billion different car stereos, and somewhere along the line, someone has hacked most of the car wiring off, so that original harness doesn't do a whole lot, and put in an Alpine plug. So a quick trip to the auto parts store and back again. I've picked up another vehicle harness. Now this is actually not even the right size to match up with that, but that's okay, I only need the ISO connectors anyway. But in the ideal situation, you remove your factory stock radio, and where the radio plugged into, you plug that in there. This end here with the two female connectors, they go into the harness here for your Eonon X3 like that, and then that plugs into the back of your Eonon radio. So that's how it works. Aftermarket radio Eonon X3. This is the Eonon provided harness here, going to an ISO connector. Then you've got an adapter here, which then plugs straight into your car. I'm going to spend a bit of time rewiring this. You won't have to do it, but that's because mine has been butchered from the beginning. So instead of rewiring the stock harness, I'm just going to put an ISO connector straight onto that. Well, I've finished wiring up my ISO female connectors straight into the car. Again, you shouldn't have to do this. Just go and buy the adapter kit from one of the links below or from your local auto parts store. But once you have the adapter wire or the ISO plugs, what you'll find is, the clever thing is, they're separated into two. The brown one here has all your speaker connections. The speaker wires come in pairs: purple, grey, white, green, for your front left, front right, rear left, rear right speakers. The other plug is where your main power comes in. So the yellow one here is actually for what's called constant power, which feeds power from your car battery to the unit at all times, and that keeps things like your settings, your radio, your presets all from being forgotten. The red one is switched ignition, so only when your car's turned on will it send power to the radio to turn it on. Then you've got the orange one, which is for illumination. When you turn your dash lights on or your headlights on, it will dim the car stereo. Blue one is usually for a remote trigger or an antenna. So if you have an antenna booster in your car, you're going to want to make sure that's all wired up as well. And black is for ground. In this old car, there's actually no ground connection in the car stereo wiring harness, so I've wired one up here. So what happens next? You simply plug it in. That one goes in there. And the speaker wiring goes in there. And this plugs into the back of your Eonon X3. And you would notice there are a few loose wires which are not yet connected. So there are two which I'm not going to connect at all. steering wheel control 1, steering wheel control 2. This car is so old it does not have any steering wheel controls at all. The next one is the reverse trigger. I am going to wire in the Eonon A0125 reverse camera. I'm going to put that in a separate video because it's a little instructional all of its own. And then we've got a ground wire here. This one, I don't actually know if I need to connect it, but I will connect it anyway. To ground the ground cable, all you need to do is find a bolt which is attached to a metal chassis part of the car. Not something that's on a bit of plastic, it has to be attached to the chassis. If you have a multimeter, which you should, you can check connectivity by just touching two random parts of the car. I know that's a good ground because I've used it before. Okay, I've connected the ground wires up there. We've got our ISO adapter cable here, Eonon X3. Plug that in the back. Antenna cable. Microphone. I'm just going to reuse the existing microphone I have in the car for the time being. Let's see if it turns on. Very first time the unit's been turned on, it powers on correctly, which is good to see.
A few moments later.
So let's do a first start of the newly installed Eonon X3. Startup time, now it's been about 10-20 seconds or so. Actually pretty quick, not too bad. It is not an Android based head unit, it is a Linux based one. So without looking at any of the instructions, let's try and figure out if we can get things set up. We're going to first of all set the date and time. The next thing we're going to try is doing our wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. CarPlay and Android Auto, AirPlay, Mirror Link. Let's go with that. Wi-Fi device, Wi-Fi channel, password is 48. Now let's see if we can connect my phone. Okay, connected device, pair a new one. Eonon. Pairing. Pair with Eonon. Pixel 7 connecting. I wonder if Android Auto works. Wow, just like that. So quick. That is incredible. Really super fast and easy connection. Nothing really needs to be done. And comes up wirelessly, just like that. Simple as anything. Are all the apps present? I'm sure they are. And pushing the button there will get us back to the home screen. That is the easiest, quickest and simplest wireless Android Auto connection that I've ever done. Naturally it's baked into the head unit, so that makes it really easy. I haven't got an iPhone, so I won't test CarPlay, but I'm sure it's as simple as the Android Auto connection. There is of course radio available. You know, that's pretty simple. You can set your own stations there and you can do your presets there and everything else too. There's no digital radio, but really when you have wireless Android Auto, there's no need for digital radio because you can stream everything through your Android Auto, whether it's digital radio stations or Spotify or anything else like that. I've also installed the reverse camera, so if I put that in reverse, there we go, you can see the reverse camera. It doesn't show up well on this video, but it is really sharp and high resolution. That's the advantage of having a new reverse camera installed. I can't remember the name of it. The lines on the screen, they can be adjusted too for depth and width, I'm sure. And well, what else can I say? It integrates really nicely with the rest of the plastics in the car. There's a few other options you can do. Mirror Link is where it displays exactly what is on your phone instead of Android Auto. I'm not sure of the benefit of that. Maybe if you wanted to stream YouTube, Netflix, or anything straight off your phone. If it's not an app on your phone that shows up in Android Auto, you can do mirror link. USB, you can put your own music onto there. The USB front port or the USB back port. Camera, well, that I think would let you select your rear camera. Maybe not. Let's go back to the main screen. Bluetooth, you can also stream music off your phone, I'm sure. AV in, that is through that connection there. AirPlay, yeah, I guess if you have an iPhone or Apple device, you can actually cast whatever video to this unit here. And yeah, back to the main screen again. Well, I've been using the Eonon X3 for a couple of days now, and I've got to say, still very impressed by it. The wireless Android Auto works quickly, fast, reliably, pretty much every time I get in the car, no problem at all. Touchscreen is quick enough. Reversing camera, really bright, quick, and high resolution too, which is great to see, and that works quite reliably. Overall, if you're looking for a really cheap, really good value CarPlay Android Auto solution for your car, and you can fit a double DIN head unit into your car, highly recommend the Eonon X3. Check my link in the description below, might be a coupon code there as well for you. And if you have any other questions about this unit, please leave a comment below and I'll try and answer them for you. Tim from Bozzy Garage. Stay tuned, subscribe and like, and I'll see you in the next video.